Track mats allow you to take one thing and use that as a way to cut out another. So you can have text, and underneath it you can have something, or over it, or whatever. And then you could say, use this as a track mat, and it'll kind of combine the two and burn them together. So this is what this one looks like. Basically, I made this. I put a bunch of clowns, little clown things I had, because I'm sort of like into the scary clowns and whatnot. So I went new composition, made it the right size here, and I brought in my little clown GIF. All it is a little crappy GIF. I threw it in here. I said, let's scale it up. I hit S. I scaled it up a little bit for some reason. Command, duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. And then you can sort of grab them and scoot them over and make it into like a bunch of clowns. So I have, yep, that's plenty of them. I might even put them on top of each other and blend them together. So let me grab these top ones and try screen. See how I got rid of all the black? All right, so now I have all these clowns here. I got 30 seconds worth, but what I might do is stagger them so that they're each starting on different clowns, like this, so that they're all kind of different. So I'm not showing the same clowns over and over again. So here's what I got. I don't want to show this green part, so I'm going to go back under my preview. And I'm going to say, don't show me everything. Just show me the work area. This is the work area right here, right? See that? So I hit play, and now it should just do this. So now I have clowns. They're all kind of showing up at different times, which is nice. See this? We could work with this, right? And then what I can do is I can pre-compose this. This is kind of advanced. You select them all and you right-click it, and you do this thing called pre-compose, and it'll make it into a new composition, basically flattens them all together. But you could always go back and change it if you wanted to. Okay, so here's my pre-composition ready to go. Now let's put a little text on it, and we're almost done, believe it or not. So I'm going to grab this text here, and I'm going to put it on here, and I'm going to say CLOWNS. I really like the boldness of it there. I'm going to say fit up to 100%. That's pretty good. That looks pretty good, but I might make it a little bigger, because I can. I don't want to hit V because it'll change all my letters, so I have to kind of click off of it. I don't want to change it from clowns to V. So I'm already looking pretty good. I'll probably grab both of them and use my arrows over. See how you can work smart, not hard. So now I've got clowns here. So what I do is I say, all right, I want you, clowns on top, to be the track thing. We're going to track you. So I click that. And then down here, I tell it to use that as an alpha mat. Boom, done, right? Weird. It took me a long time to figure this out because I didn't realize what had to be on top and what had to be on bottom and how to kind of link them together. So let me do that one more time because it's not really intuitive. So here's the clowns on top. You say, I'm going to make you the thing that it tracks to, basically, right? And then I'm going to say, I'm going to make the pre-comp now stick to that. And so you come under track mat controls here, and you do this alpha mat, so that now where the text was, the clowns show through. The first time I did it, I had the clowns on the bottom. Doesn't that make kind of logical sense? I thought, well, I'm trying to see through the text. So I finally figured out kind of the logic of why they do it this way. So now if I once again hit play, preview, where did it go? There it is. So this is kind of my movie now. What could I do? Well, I could do a lot more stuff. I would probably choose one of those colors, layer, new solid. I would probably choose, I like this kind of pale blood, dry blood red here. See that? So I might choose that, make a solid here, drag that underneath everything. And now it's starting to do some kind of cool stuff, right? Here's another thing you can do. What I've got is I've got clown text, and on top of that, I've got a shape, and the shape can make the text show up or not. See that? That's kind of neat. So you could animate this in like that, right? Let me see if I could show you how I did that. So here I have the text. And then all I did was I took this and I drew over the top of it, but I made sure I wasn't selecting it, because you have to be careful that you don't erase what you already had in there. So here's my shape. I said, okay, you can be the track mat over the text. See that? And then I told the text, use that guy as my mat. And then I eventually put in the clowns too, and they worked pretty well once I got them in there. It was weird though, I had to move them into other spots. So now I have the shape, and I could say position or scale or whatever I want. And I could turn those stopwatches on. I would probably wait a second for anything to happen. And then I would say, okay, start something to happen, move a little later, and let's pull this guy out of here by picking the right tool. Let's pull it out like this. Done. Maybe hit shift so it constrains it. See how it constrains it when I do that? Now let's hit play. So it should kind of disappear basically by sliding that block off to the left. Let's see if it works. There it goes. That's kind of neat. So you can do that on anything. You can do that on any object, any square, any rectangle, any circle. I've got these 3 little clown GIFs that I made, and I'm always working with clowns because I have this scary book on Amazon you should check out. Creepy Clown by Vance, Mellen. Go check it out. It's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to play this for you so you can just kind of see how it looks here. So it's a bunch of clowns. So let me stagger them so different clowns start at different times. And then I will loop this area here. Play, play. So now there's all different kinds of faces flashing here. So once I had that, I made that into a composition. I kind of selected everything like this. I right-clicked it, and there's this thing called pre-compose, and what it does is it flattens them all together. Let's call this flat staggered clowns. Always give things good names, right? So you can figure out what they are later. So flat staggered clowns is now, they've all been put together in one kind of composition that's nested inside this composition. So if I want to see what flat clowns look like, I can come back up here, double click this, and then there they all are again, all in their different layers and ready to be messed around with or edited again. So now that I have flat staggered clowns done, I can stick that in here. Instead of the layer I already have in here, I can put flat staggered clowns in here. So let me drag that in, put it right here. And now there they are. I'll hit S for scale and make them nice and big so they kind of fill up the screen a little bit. Because it's a decent quality GIF, it's not losing too much of its quality there. So I'm going to delete this old layer that I showed you a minute ago. And now I have text up here, and all it is the word clowns as a really kind of funky, strange, clownish font going on there, which I like. So how do I get that clowns to cut out the picture underneath and just keep the picture inside of the word clowns? That's what I really want to do. In fact, I might even make clowns a little bigger. I like the idea of having it as big as I can get it here. There we go, and scoot it over a little bit like that. So I'm going to have their faces showing through the letters, and here's how you do it. First thing you do is the text is on top and the pictures are underneath. You don't always necessarily want to do it that way because it's sort of counterintuitive, but you're going to press this down upon the text. So the first thing I do is say this is up here is going to be a track mat. So I click on this little button here. See that? So already it's working. The reason it's working is because clowns underneath usually would be assigned to it right here. Flat staggered clowns. So because this is now on top of this one and I turned on track mat, it does tend to want to turn off the eyeball sometimes, so make sure it's still on. And it's working just fine. There's a couple other ways to do this generally that work nicely. Let me hit play so we can see how this looks. Notice I've pulled in my work area so we only see a portion of it. So there's only one of them that's showing up, so that's a little odd. Let's see if we can fix that. So I did a short investigation and I found out the reason that nothing is showing up over here and over here is because when I made these layers over here in the beginning, see how only one of them is showing up, then the other? So I have to kind of see where this whole loop starts, which is right around 17 seconds and 10 frames. See right there? So I can come back into what I was working on a second ago, which is called clowns, and I can drag this over a ways until all of them are showing up here at the beginning. So this composition that's in here relies on the other composition. Whatever changes I make in that other composition are going to be made in this composition too. Now they're all starting to show up. Let's see if they stay showing up. Yeah, it looks awesome. So I'm going to hit play again. So that's one way to fix things. So just remember, when you do a pre-composition and stick a composition in something else, whatever is in the original composition is going to show up in your new one. The nested composition is the one that's stuck in here. That's this one right here. It's nice to be able to stick things together in a pre-comp. Another way you could do it, to tell you the truth, is you come into here and you've got all these layers here. You could just copy them and bring them in if you want to control them a little bit more. You know, I could just do Control C and come back over here to clown, hit I to go to the endpoint, which is now too far over because I moved this over. I'll go here and I'll hit paste. And so you see how this is what the composition would have looked like. So then I could drag these over like that. So they're all showing up, and I can drag them down by grabbing their label, move them down underneath. So there's a lot of interesting things you can do with these compositions, pre-compositions. Let me show you another way of doing this. I'm going to turn off the track mat here, and I'm going to drag the text on the top. So another way you can do it is to say, I want the text to be the track mat, and you can assign this to see that. See how it sees alpha mat clowns? That's this layer here. So now it's doing the same thing. So there's two ways to do it. This gives you a little more control. You can also invert it, and you can try other settings out, which is sort of another way of inverting, right? Here's Luma, which takes kind of the darker and lighter colors and does interesting things with them. So those are all kind of different settings that you can play with here. If you want to make the track mat in the opposite way, you can do that and just work with this assignments down here and assign what this is going to see as its track mat. All right. It does turn this eyeball off. That's how my eyeball turned off earlier. It's kind of weird. So if you turn that back on, it's going to mess it up. So you want to turn that off, say this is a track mat, which happened when I clicked that button right there, which disappeared when it became a track mat. And then I also turned this on to Luma or Alpha Clowns. Any one of these will work. And now I have the text showing through, which I think is a really cool thing. You see that a lot in the Marvel, which all of these companies in Hollywood use this After Effects program. It's pretty stunning. They don't have some fancy billion-dollar programs they're using After Effects a lot of times. So there's one other really interesting thing I can do, which is to add a mask onto this. You know, you could just put a white solid on here and move that around, but that doesn't always work very well. Layer, new solid here. There we go. You know, I could make a solid, set it on top there, and then just hit P for position and start moving this around and reveal what's underneath it. But if I ever want to put something else in the white, that's kind of a lame way to do it, because how are you going to do that? You can't really have a lot of stuff back there behind that big white block that's sitting on top of it. So another way to do that is to do what's called a mask. I actually have to click off of the layers. It's kind of weird. So now I'll make a red square over the top of it, like this. And this mask shape can then be made as a track mat on top of the text too. So I can click this here, and I can click Alpha Mat Shape Layer 1. And now I have this shape here, and I can move that shape around. The other thing I could do is I could parent the clown faces that are all smashed together in that composition. I could make that a child of the parent, which is the clown. So now when I move the clowns, the clown text, the clown pictures move with it. So that would be another cool thing I could do. Let me undo that. And if I don't want that, I can just kind of unassign it here. I don't really want that right now. So the other thing that's kind of interesting about this is I could also animate kind of a mask over the top of this by grabbing this little rectangle here, and I can just draw a mask over the top. See how it's starting to make it disappear? That will show up here under clowns as a mask I love masks because they're great ways of cutting things out instead of taking it into Photoshop or something like that. You can just cut it out right here using the pen tools. Okay, so after I drew that square over the top of the clown using this rectangle tool, it's odd that this is turned off, the eyeball's turned off, but it just doesn't work unless the eyeball's turned off and it knows that it's a matte, track matte. So it's a little weird. So the other thing I can do here is I could say I want to change the path and maybe even the shape of this mask here that I've drawn. So right here, the mask is sort of in place, but I don't really like how it's allowing the clowns to be shown up. So what I might do is say, instead of adding what's inside that square, let's subtract and hide what's inside that square. So now underneath, if I turn this mask off, you would see that it's still under there. But let's, for now, you know, the other thing you could do is you could say add and then invert it like that. So there's several ways of making things see-through. Just mess with these buttons until it's not see-through, or it is. So here it is at this point at 0 frames. The square is covering what's underneath it. And then let's go over here, and then I'm going to just use this kind of pointer tool that grabs things, and I'm going to click right here and pull this up and out like that, which makes a new keyframe automatically for me. So as we scroll through, you'll see the white square moving out of the way. So let's go back here and let's watch this. Hit play, and there it is. It reveals what's underneath it. So one other thing you might want to do while you're revealing what's underneath it, you could also, let's just turn this off and animate something else about it. Let's turn it back on. That kind of erased the keyframes when I did that. The other thing you could do is jump a little later. Instead of moving the whole box out of the way, what I could do is just move one of these corners or something out of the way. I could click off of it, click back on it, and I could sort of, you know, reveal it in a strange way like that. For example, let's see what that looks like. See how it says the mask path looks like this at 0, and then if I jump a little later, it looks like this when you get to 1 second and 23 frames, almost 2 seconds. So I'm going to hit rewind, I'm going to hit play, and then you'll see the mask moved out of the way and revealed the clowns. So there's several ways of making things move out of the way. Move the whole block or move just part of the block. You're making the block using this shape layer up here, a rectangle tool actually. You could use a shape layer too if you want. And it'll turn it off, which is kind of odd, but it does make a mask. So if you're not making a mask, there's some buttons that might show up here as you're starting to draw masks and things. So, you know, sometimes it doesn't know whether you want to make a shape or a mask. So if these buttons are showing up here, then that kind of gives you an indication that maybe you need to change these buttons if it's not working the way you want it to. If it's on if it's on a shape, like if I click off here, it gives me the choice here, and it wants to make a shape instead of a mask. So if I made that, you know, you'd get like a big red square, which is fine, but then you might have to change it and say, I don't really want this to be a big red square, I want it to be a mask, and then you click on this, and it'll allow you to draw a mask instead, which, see, the mask cuts things out. So there's a little bit of a difference there.